Every morning, an alarm rips you out of sleep. You drag yourself up, brush your teeth, commute, clock in. And then you hand over the sharpest, most alive hours of your day to someone else. At some point, maybe on a Tuesday afternoon, staring at your screen, you've probably had this thought flash through your mind. When did humans start living like this? Here's something that might genuinely unsettle you. If an ancestor from 20,000 years ago could see your life right now, he wouldn't envy you. He'd think you'd lost your mind. He couldn't understand why a free human being would willingly lock himself inside a concrete box, sit still for 8 hours, and let another person tell him what to do with his day. What we're about to walk through isn't going to make you feel better about your Monday morning, but it might change how you think about rest, productivity, and what it actually means to be human. Start with a number: 90,000 hours. That's how much of your life the average modern person spends working. Roughly 1/3 of every waking hour you'll ever have. Now here's the strange part. For 99% of human history, work, as we know it, didn't exist. No boss, no salary, no performance review. In 1963, anthropologist Richard Lee studied the Jew/Hawansi people of Botswana. What he found stopped researchers in their tracks. These adults spent just 15 to 17 hours per week securing food for their entire group. Per week, not per day. A modern office worker probably hits that number by Tuesday morning. And this wasn't a one-off finding. The Hadza people of Tanzania, the Aceh of Paraguay, the Martu of Australia. Different continents, different environments, different centuries. Same result. The actual time humans need to survive, to eat, to live, to provide, is far less than we've been led to believe. So what happened? Most people assume that farming was an upgrade. More food, more stability, civilization. But the bones don't lie. When archaeologists examine the earliest farming populations, something unexpected shows up. They were shorter than their hunter-gatherer ancestors. Their bones show signs of malnutrition. Their teeth were rotting from a grain-heavy diet. Their spines were worn down from repetitive physical labor. Their lifespans actually shortened. Meanwhile, the hunter-gatherers they replaced? Taller, stronger, healthier joints, less skeletal damage. Agriculture expanded the human population, but it also quietly invented repetitive labor, chronic overwork, and, if we're being honest, the bad back. If early humans only needed 15 hours a week to survive, what were they doing with the rest? Here's the question that really matters. The answer is buried inside cave walls. In 1994, explorers discovered the Chauvet Cave in southern France. Inside were paintings made 30,000 years ago. Bison, lions, woolly rhinoceroses. The lines were fluid. Some images had depth. Some even suggested movement. This wasn't idle doodling. This took skill, planning, deliberate effort. And most importantly, time. Someone crawled deep into a dark cave, held a torch in one hand, and spent hours, possibly days, making a horse look beautiful. Not for money, not for an audience, not for any measurable return. Just because beauty mattered. In South Africa, archaeologists found shell necklaces dating back 100,000 years. The nearest coastline was 20 kilometers from where they were found, meaning someone walked 40 kilometers round trip just to collect a few shells. Then sat down, carefully drilled holes through each one, strung them together. Today, someone might ask, but what's the ROI on that? For most of human history, that question wouldn't have made any sense. Not everything needed to produce value. Picture an ordinary morning, 15,000 years ago. You wake up naturally, no alarm, no notifications, no one waiting on a reply. A fire is burning low. Someone adds wood. People eat slowly. Leftover meat, some fruit. Conversations drift. Later in the morning, maybe a few people head out to hunt, or maybe they don't feel like it. Some stay back. They sharpen tools, weave baskets, sit in the sun. No efficiency targets, no one checking in, no metrics. The work gets done, but it gets done because doing things well feels satisfying, not because someone is watching. There's a word for this state that psychology researchers use today. They call it intrinsic motivation. Our ancestors lived inside it constantly. Here's where it gets interesting. By mid-afternoon, the day's essential work was finished, and then they did something that most people today genuinely struggle with. They did nothing. Not productive nothing, not optimized downtime, just nothing. Sitting, talking, playing with children, grooming each other, napping in the sun. Anthropologist James Suzman documented that Juhoansi adults spent around 6 hours each day in pure social interaction. Not networking, not meetings, not connecting over coffee, just being together. In a world without money or legal contracts, relationships were the only real safety net. If people liked you, they fed you when you were hungry. So ancient humans didn't invest in portfolios, they invested in people. At night, everything shifted. Anthropologist Polly Wiesner spent years studying evening conversations among the Zhou/Hoansi people. During the day, conversations were practical: where to find game, who was slacking off, what plants were safe to eat. But at night, gathered around the fire, 81% of the conversation transformed into something else entirely. Stories, myths, ancestors, jokes, adventures, gossip. Wiesner argued that human culture itself was born around those fires. Days were for survival, nights were for meaning. In a way, the campfire was humanity's first screen. The difference is, it didn't have an infinite scroll, and it never quietly stole 4 hours from you. Here's something most people have never heard. Before electric light, humans didn't sleep the way we do now. Historical records and sleep research both point to the same thing. People commonly slept in 2 separate phases. First sleep, around 4 hours. Then a natural waking period, 1 to 2 hours of quiet, calm alertness in the middle of the night. Then second sleep. This wasn't a disorder, it was the default. So if you wake up at 2 a.m. and can't immediately fall back asleep, your body isn't broken. The industrial age decided that 8 consecutive hours of sleep was the only acceptable standard, and suddenly a completely normal human sleep pattern got reclassified as a problem. A lot of what we call dysfunction today used to just be called being human. About 10,000 years ago, humans began farming. At first, it looked like progress. More food, more predictability, more people. But here's the trap that came with it. Once the population grew, there was no going back. The forests couldn't feed that many people anymore, so humans became permanently bound to the land. Planting seasons, weeding, harvesting, storing, defending, paying tribute. And slowly, over centuries, that binding evolved into something more structured. Hierarchy, institutions, professions, and eventually, employment. For the first time in human history, your time began to belong to someone else. We traded freedom for food security. We traded leisure for population growth. We traded time for civilization. Whether that was a good deal, well, that depends on the day you ask. If you constantly feel tired, you're not alone. If you feel anxious without knowing exactly why, you're not alone. If you find yourself mentally checking out, craving silence, wanting to disappear for a weekend, feeling guilty when you're not being productive, here's one way to think about it. You have a 300,000-year-old brain, and that brain is now running inside a system that has only existed for a few hundred years. We can't go back to the forest. We're not dismantling the concrete world around us. But there is one thing we can change right now. We can stop treating rest like failure. We can stop measuring every hour against what it produced. We might not be able to redesign the system, but we can refuse to let it convince us that our humanity is inefficient. You are not a machine running behind schedule. You are a person who has simply, for a while, forgotten what it felt like to live like one. See you next time.